Welcome to the Council of Better Business Bureau's podcast, The Bistro, where we will discuss today's hottest consumer trends, predict the future with consumer experts, and learn how elite businesses and entrepreneurs continue to push the envelope in today's marketplace.
Hello and welcome to The Bistro. Thank you for joining us for the Better Business Bureau. I'm your host, Elaine Espinola. Today we're talking about saving for college. There's definitely no denying the benefits of a college education, including the ability to compete in today and tomorrow's job market, the increased earning power of college graduates, and benefits that go far beyond financial earnings. Things like increased reported health and happiness overall from college graduates versus those that didn't go to college. Yet, the cost of college continues to rise, making this important education decision one that can require smart financial planning. Here to speak with us on the topic of saving for college is a certified financial planner and managing partner with Washington Wealth Advisors. She is Maura Schauss. Thank you so much for joining us, Maura.
Thank you for having me today, Elaine.
Absolutely. I really appreciate this. And this is really a topic that most everybody is going to need to consider at one point or another.
Absolutely.
Tell me, why is it important to start a college fund for your children and how early should we start?
Sure. So, Elaine, it's important to start a college fund as college has become very expensive and most parents or students are going to have to foot at least a portion of that bill. And, we feel as financial planners like it's never too early to start saving for college due to the power of compounding returns. But that being said, most financial planners will tell you to make sure you're on track with your retirement savings first. Because for retirement, there's no other option. You need to have the money there. Versus for education, there are options. So we want our clients to try and strike that balance between education and retirement.
That's a really great tip because I think, especially as we're speaking of college savings, and some people are maybe focused on that. I know we get focused, don't we? There's all these different things we can do. And if you're focused on that and then you forget to start saving for your retirement sort of first, maybe, that's a great tip. Okay, so how much should a family plan to save on a monthly basis for each of their children?
Excellent question. So if we look at a cost of around $25,000 for tuition, room, and board, if a baby's born today, the parents would need to save about $500 a month for the next 18 years to cover that cost. And if they can't do that and decide to delay, which many people can't, right? Between childcare, other expenses, and decide to delay that, by the time that child reaches first grade, if they still want to be on track to cover a 4-year school for them at $25,000, that grows to $700 a month.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot, right?
That is a lot. Honestly, thank you for putting that number out there. And I know it's a general number, but because colleges are different. And actually, I'm thinking, wow, some colleges are more expensive than that. Mm-hmm. And I have 3 kids. So, wow. So this is really a great conversation and one that, the whole goal is for this not to be alarming, but to really give people options because it is something important that we need to start to think about. So, what are some alternatives? Basically, if someone can't afford that much and we obviously are planning for a certain amount, but do you recommend, hey, just do what you can, $10 a month, whatever it is you can do?
Absolutely. Do what you can. Set your budget and determine where your priorities are. What some people will do is set aside enough to cover maybe a year or to just cover tuition and let the child be responsible for room and board and other fees. Okay. So definitely do what you can. Something, $10, $50 a month. If you can do it, Virginia has some great plans that you can save into.
Okay, so that's good to know. So don't be overwhelmed to the point of doing nothing when you hear numbers like that, but start to see what you can do.
Yes.
So that's really great advice. Now, once a family does make the decision to start a college savings account, should they save the money in their name or in their children's name?
So in the majority of situations, we find that clients benefit the most by saving money in their names, the parents' names. This allows really parents to retain control over the funds. And the funds are also not necessarily weighted as much against the child when it comes to qualifying for financial aid. So by keeping those funds in the parent's name, also if a child decides not to go to college, the parents can take control of that money and use it for themselves or for another child.
Okay, so that's great advice. What are some other college saving options that are currently available?
Sure. So there's always your bank or brokerage account, but you don't get tax benefits really from saving money into these types of accounts. But as of a little over 20 years ago, these are really the only options. Now there's the Coverdell Education Savings Account and the 529 College Savings Plan. Both great vehicles.
Okay, so tell us the advantages of both of those options.
Sure. So with the Coverdell, the primary advantage there is that these funds can be used for elementary and secondary school, versus the 529 plan is really solely for college education. If you're within certain income limits, you can save $2,000 a year into the Coverdell. The funds grow tax deferred, and when you pull them out for education, they come out tax free. The tough part with the Coverdell is that if parents make more than about $220,000 a year, you cannot contribute to that account.
I see. Okay, so you're just paying out of pocket then for an elementary education. Yes. Okay, if you go that route. Okay, so we have a question here. You mentioned if you put the money in a parent's name and you don't end up using that for college, you can transfer it somewhere else. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, what if you put it in a child's name and then the child doesn't go to college? Will you be penalized, or what happens to that money?
Sure. So if it's in the child's name, usually parents use an UTMA account to do that, and you're gifting the money to a child to get the tax benefits of their tax bracket. If the child doesn't go to college, then that's money that they get to keep.
I see.
Versus if you use a plan like the 529 College Savings Plan, where the parents own it and the child's a beneficiary. If then they don't go to college, the parents can pull back control of that money.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's really good to know. I definitely didn't know that difference. And who knows what happens? Maybe they don't go and you're disappointed and you're like, no, I want my money back. We're transferring it to another child or using it for some other purpose.
Right,
okay,
right.
Good to know. Now, what about an individual's 401k savings? Is it a good idea to use that money to pay for your child's college education?
Sure. So, that's a tough question. Most financial advisors, as I mentioned earlier, tend to believe that retirement savings takes priority over education savings. So we get very nervous when someone tells us they're going to access their retirement plan to cover their child or children's education. So that being said, though, people are having children later today, right? And so what we're finding is that it can become a strategy if they've overfunded their retirement. After age 59 and a half, you can access your 401k or IRA plan with no penalty. Before that, there's a 10% penalty. So if they've overfunded their retirement and they want to help their child out, it can be a strategy. Again, it makes us a little bit nervous. We prefer the 529 plan by far over a 401k.
Okay, good to know. Let's talk about some financial aid programs. How heavily should a family consider relying on these programs?
Sure. First of all, one has to have a demonstrated need to qualify for these programs. There's a tool now available on the Department of Education's website called the FAFSA Forecaster. And this is a great tool because what someone can do is by the time they have a junior in high school, let's say, they can go online, put their information in, and get a good feel as to what they're going to qualify for. But financially, it is there for people who have, again, that demonstrated need. So if you don't think you're going to have a demonstrated need, definitely save.
Okay. One more time. What was the name of that website?
Sure. It's a Department of Education's website, and the tool is called the FAFSA Forecaster.
Okay.
It's right there when you go on the website, kind of, if they haven't moved it, midway down on the right.
Thank you. Oh, that's good. You know exactly where it is. But that's good because that's really helpful.
It is.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't know that exists. I've never heard of that. So it's really helpful. Regarding student loans, what is the best way to pay them off?
Sure.
I know this is going a totally different direction, but just a quick, just your quick thoughts on that.
Absolutely. There's so many people out there now who have student loans. So first of all, create a budget that includes a payment schedule so that you know how long you're going to be paying for them. Address the higher interest loans first. Get rid of those. Increase the payment when you can above the minimum as you're able to do so, as maybe you get a tax refund or as you have a bonus come in. And by all means, set up an automatic payment plan. This applies to both paying down debt as well as savings. Everyone is so busy today. The more that can be automated, the better.
I couldn't agree more. And also, you don't miss it.
Right.
Because you're not planning on it. It's just automatically going. So I like that. I'm so glad that you're here, by the way, because I have 3 children. So this is something that I'm for sure thinking about. And I know a lot of American families are too. And you speaking on all of these topics is getting me thinking about some things. How does working with a wealth advisor benefit families in making the best decisions around college savings and just overall family financial management?
Sure. So first of all, there's many types of advisors out there. We advocate working with a CFP, as you mentioned, a certified financial planner who's independent and is a fiduciary. These are advisors that are required to go through training, pass a comprehensive exam, and are held to the highest standards. The word fiduciary has been in the news a lot lately, so I just want to touch on that quickly.
Please do.
A fiduciary is an advisor who is required to put your interests first ahead of their own. So that's important as well, because then you have that peace of mind that they're looking out for you. In terms of benefiting, personal financial issues have become increasingly and often really unnecessarily complex. So a good advisor can work with clients to create a plan that puts them on track for their financial goals, limiting, hopefully, some of the stress that they go through on a daily basis.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Now, how can people contact you, Maura, to find out more about Washington Wealth Advisors?
Sure. So Washington Wealth Advisors, we can be found online at washingtonwealthadv.com, or they can call our office and schedule a 15-minute introductory call.
Okay, wonderful. I know you're also on LinkedIn because I follow you on there and you post a lot of really great articles. Yes, a lot of great articles that honestly I read them and it's really helping me out a lot in terms of educating myself. So I appreciate that.
That's great to hear.
So we're almost at the end here.
Sure.
And if we could just wrap it up, Maura, what would be your top 3 tips for any family thinking about a college savings plan for their children?
Sure. So first of all, Elaine, identify your goal. Do you want to cover half of a state school education, a full private 4-year college? Identify what you think is a realistic goal for you and your family. Then identify the savings needed to achieve that goal on a monthly basis. Once you've determined that, confirm that your budget can support that savings. And if not, let's go back and revisit what that goal is. It's not the end of the world for a child to have a stake in the game when it comes to saving for college or to pay off those loans.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Maura. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us on The Bistro. Outside of buying a home, a college education is likely the next largest investment a person can make. So we really thank you for sharing all of these great tips, and I hope that people go to your website and look for more information around this.
Great. Thanks so much, Elaine, for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. The Better Business Bureau is deeply committed to building and advancing a better marketplace, a trusted marketplace for all, because trust always matters. For the Better Business Bureau, and as your host of The Bistro, I'm Elaine Espinola, and I thank you for listening, and I encourage you to give us your feedback on this episode. Until next time, it's been my pleasure discussing better business with you.
You just enjoyed The Bistro podcast. Be sure to tune in next month for a brand new episode. To learn more about our other shows, visit betterbusiness.blueberry.com. That's betterbusiness.blueberry.com and subscribe. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are the views and opinions of the guests, not those of the Better Business Bureau, Council of Better Business Bureaus, or program affiliates. This podcast is for information and educational purposes only and is copyrighted with all rights reserved. This podcast is protected by Blueberry's Terms of Service.